If it would be a dream for you to get paid to help people with what you know, with what you're good at, with something you've already been helping people with for free, maybe even have a nonprofit that hasn't made too much money, then stay tuned, because in this video, I'm going to talk about how I stopped struggling with my nonprofit and started earning $250 as a brand new coach with no website, just faith.
I'm about to have a good day, no matter what they say.
Hi, my name is Angel Santos. I'm a Christian empowerment coach and the leader of the Rich and Redeem movement. And today, like I said, I am going to take you through my process, because it's not traditional. And I want to let you know really just what's possible. And I want to preface it by saying you don't have to follow the exact thing I did. Too many coaches and mentors, as soon as you get into their program, they want you to copy exactly what they did. If they use Instagram, they want you to use Instagram. If they use Facebook, they want you to use Facebook. If they're on YouTube, they want you to use YouTube. And here's the thing. You use what God tell you to use, right? You use what you desire to, what will work for you, what feels good. So this video isn't so you can copy the exact, no, you can, because it works. But this video isn't so you copy my exact steps. It's one that you be open to taking the limits off of yourself by taking the limits off of God. So that's one. It's two, so you can see how I changed my thinking. And then three, so you can start to just ideate and brainstorm and let God speak to you on the steps that you would like to take, because it's 100% possible for you, right? Okay, so let's get into it. For context, I had my business from 2012 to 2015. I had a nonprofit, and in 3 years, I made $535. Now, I think when people say that, they maybe think like, oh, it was rough the whole time, and that would not be accurate. I had a great time. Can you tell by how my whole face stood up? I had a great time. I had an office space that my friend did not like because she said it was a little grimy, but it was nice. It was in the museum district area. So I had an office space. I had some business cards that I printed on an inkjet printer. Okay, that wasn't great. That was cheap. Those were not great business cards. I was on a budget. And I just really enjoy what I did. My whole nonprofit was it was called Save Our Papers Foundation, and papers meaning like journalism, and it was all about creating Christian media. And so over 3 years, that's what I did. I created different like short films and TV shows of just Christian media, right? And I used all my staff was interns. I would use college students who one went on to she's a producer at a Fox station in San Antonio, so very proud of her. But I use interns, media interns who are in college as my crew, and our actors were just children ranging from probably 7 to, well, maybe like 19, something like that, right? Kids to teenagers. And it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. The gospel was shared to all who could hear. Yeah, and it was a great experience. And I know, but I'm just being honest. It was a great experience. And I enjoyed it, but I did get burnt out at the end. And here's the thing, but you don't know sometimes how God can use one thing to lead to another. I would have still been in a nonprofit, but this is why I got burnt out. I remember one day we were filming at this place that I was renting, and we had the whole place to ourselves. I would order, sometimes I would make sandwiches or buy sandwiches and snacks, but that day I hadn't. So then sometimes I would just order pizza to feed the kids, right? And this particular day, quite a few parents had stayed because they're supposed to, but they never did. Okay, so the parents had stayed, And can I just tell you, because I did this for 3 years, I never had a parent to offer to bring snacks for any of the children, offer to just bring their own child lunch. I never had a parent to bring water, contribute in any way. Now, mind you, I wasn't charging them anything, and that was an error on my part. But no parent ever offered to help in any way. And that was fine. But what really kind of drew the line and something has to change is I'm ordering pizza from for the children, and because we weren't in an area where it's like a Pizza Hut or a Domino's, I basically order from an Italian restaurant. And Italian restaurant pizzas are smaller and more expensive. But I'm going to feed the kids. And I didn't go to the grocery store. I didn't go to Kroger and get like the rolls or anything like that. So I'm going to make sure the kids are taken care of, right? And teenagers. Here's the issue. The parents walk up to me. We're tired of pizza, because I probably had ordered pizza before. We're tired of pizza. We were thinking like a salad or lasagna. And I was like, okay, I shouldn't have even been having to feed the parent. Like, take your child to go have lunch, but at the time I was just like, okay. And so I ordered one lasagna. I think that lasagna was like $40 or something. So I'm thinking it's going to be a family size. That lasagna was this big. I'm not kidding. And one of the kids grabbed it. I want to say it was 60, but I don't want to say it wrong. So it maybe was 40. I know that was some pricey lasagna. I'm thinking it was going to be a pan. It was this big. It was a personal size. And one of the kids grabbed it. And it was at that point that I realized something has to change. Like, it's one thing to be feeding the children, but why am I feeding the parents? This doesn't make sense. It took that moment for me to have a breakdown that my business model did not make sense, right? Because what I was doing, I was working a day job to funnel money into my nonprofit, which I eventually wanted my nonprofit to make enough income to where I could leave and focus on it, because it was where my heart was, right? But, needed income. And that moment caused me to realize this is not going to become sustainable going this way. Like, you have had more money going out than coming in. So I remember, I can't remember how the dates went, but I was at the same time by now a marketing manager. I know, right? I could market for companies. I just didn't do it to make money for myself. So I was at my day job, and I remember them telling me that because I was the marketing manager, I was going to have to represent them at this 3-day business conference with the brand coach that they had just hired. And I remember thinking, I was so young. I remember thinking in my head, I didn't say this out loud, I have to spend 3 days in a hotel, including my Friday and Saturday, talking about some business? I don't want to do that. I want my weekend to myself. Like, I don't want to do that. But it was my job. It was my job. So I went, and everything changed. Everything changed, because at that conference, it was called Be the Brand Live, I want to say, 2016. And it was by Jenna Rodriguez. And I learned everything that I was doing wrong. Yeah, thank you, Jesus. That was February 2016. She called out everything that I was doing wrong. She was up there, and it was aha. I was supposed to be there representing the brand that I was the manager for. But when I tell you, thank you, they basically paid for me to go to that event. I had no idea what I was thank you, Jesus. I had no idea what I was walking into. But I learned everything I was doing wrong, right? And so I set out on a mission. By the end of that year, I was going to be working with a coach, because I realized that's what I needed. I needed some help. And so in October of 2016. Yeah, wow. In October of 2016, I went to a conference by Michelle Sism, and what was hers called? Decide, Plan, Profit, I think, something like that. And I bought my ticket this time. It was $297. And I think you got it back if you went all 3 days. That used to be the strategy. That was old school. So I went, and I was so new to this industry that when she had spent 2 days teaching, and it had been so helpful, right? And when she was introducing like how you could work with her, and I remember she said, and this was 2016, and I was making, I just 15 an hour. Can we just be all the way transparent as a marketing manager? So not, I would call that underpaid, considering I was managing a budget of $180,000. Like, how do you pay the billboard that I, create and manage more than you pay me? Okay, but moving on. So I was making 15 an hour as a marketing manager working full time. And I remember she said her program was 12 months. I was like, yes, that's what I need. And she was like, you work with me and another coach. That's what I need. It's $10,500 or something like that. And I was like, oh, I don't have that. If I had it, I don't have that. And she said, but you can pay that. And I was like, yeah, okay, well. And she said, or you can pay $500 today and $500 in 2 weeks. And when I tell you, I got my little binder and I walked to the back of the room, and they was like, yes, how can we help you? And I was like, I want to do the $500 today and $500 in 2 weeks. And they was like, I remember, I wanted, because it was the Red Elephant team. I wonder if they remember this. They probably wouldn't. But it was the Red Elephant team. They used to do a lot of, it was a wife and husband couple who did a lot of events for people back then. And they taught speakers. And I remember I want to say it was the guy, he was like, I'm going to make sure Michelle knows you were the first one back here. She's going to finish like introducing everyone to the program and how you can work with her. And then it's going to be a break. And that's when you can sign up. And I was like, oh, okay, thank you. So I forgot. I walked back to my seat. I didn't know how it worked. I didn't know that much about coaching. I was new to the industry, right? But I knew that, let me say this, I believed that she could help me. And so I signed up for her program. Now, here's the very interesting thing. I signed up for her program in October of 2016. Because her event, and this is all, by the way, how I stopped struggling with the nonprofit and started making $250 as a new coach with no website, right? It's all gonna tie together, so just stay with me, okay? Stay with me. You can stay with Netflix and Hulu and Pureflix. You can stay with me. Okay, so I started working with Michelle in October of 2016. And of all the things that she taught me, one of the biggest things, and it may sound so obvious to you, but one of the things I learned from her is that selling is a service. See, I grew up as, my father is a pastor, my sister is a minister, my brother's a minister, my sister was also a Sunday school teacher, my mom is an evangelist over the mission. I grew up surrounded by servants. Now, some of them had their professional jobs, but they were all still servants. And I grew up with a mom who wouldn't even let me sell Girl Scout cookies because she said, we serve, we don't sell. So that's what we do. We serve, we don't sell. So what did I do? I opened a nonprofit where I served. I did not sell. I didn't even have a product. I just was going to look for sponsors here and there, which is what I did, which is not sustainable. It's not a business model, even for a nonprofit. And what I learned from Michelle was that selling is service. And it can sound like such a simple lesson, but when you embody it, when you really anchor it in deep down, because see, it's easy to hear it and be like, oh yeah, well, of course. But if you don't spend substantial amount of your time selling in your business, then your actions are not congruent with what you're saying. Because if you really believe that selling is serving, you would spend significant time in your business selling. Because you know that once people give you their money in exchange for your program, an element of their life is going to change for the better. I specialize in helping Christian women turn their skills, their story, their God-given gifts and struggles into programs, into packages, into courses, into mission-led businesses. If you have a mission-led business, your mission is to help with whatever you do, right? To spread your mission, you need people to buy. To get people to buy, you need to sell. So I just don't want you to miss, right? Because there's more for you to know, but if you miss this part, you're going to miss a lot. Selling is serving, and serving is selling. And if you have resistance toward that, then mentally you're going to stay just like I was with a nonprofit, where you help people for free. You burn yourself out. And you know what I learned? I learned that when you limit your income, which I did, you limit your impact. The amount of people that I could have helped was smaller because, I could only afford to take so much money from my day job and put it into my nonprofit, right? The amount of reach we reach with our content was smaller because, again, our income was limited. The quality of service, everything was limited to a degree because the income was limited. When you limit your income, you limit your impact. So what I want to invite you to do in this moment is to take the limits off of the income you can make in your business. Because when you do that, you take the limits off of the impact. And I know, one thing I know about you, if you are on this channel, and you specifically chose to watch this because you're familiar with my brand, then what I know about you is that there is a specific impact that God created you to make in this world. Just like Jonah, just like Esther, just like Moses, just like Joseph, right? You have a specific impact that you desire to make. I know you do. Don't limit God. So what I'd love for you to do is just comment below. I commit to taking the limits off of my income and my impact, because that is a part of what the Rich and Redeemed movement is all about, right? Okay, so back to Michelle. I signed her for the program in October and I started working with her, and she helped me develop my first well, honestly, I had already had a coaching program, but she helped me unpack it because I had overloaded. Like my first coaching client, she paid me to work with her for 3 months, but I was doing way too much. I was going to her. I was meeting her up in person. It was a lot going on. I just had so much to give, right? So Michelle helped me create my first package that made more sense. It was like 6 months, and she helped me figure out what to put in it and, what I will work on them with in each month, right? Now, here's where we had a discrepancy. Because I have been so helped by her event, I wanted to have my own event. I wanted to have my lanyards with, my event's name. And I wanted to have my, workbook with, the different things I'm going to take people through. Now, I wasn't going to do a ballroom in a hotel for 3 days, but I could do a 1 day somewhere. And you know what Michelle told me? She said, she told me, basically, you don't have an audience, right? Like, how are you going to fill this event when you don't have an audience? And that's why I call this, when I say how I went from struggling to $250 an hour as a new coach, no website, just faith, because I did not have a website. I did not have an audience, right? Nobody knew me as a coach. But I had revamped my business model between my nonprofit breakthrough and finding my coach. I had revamped mine into first a marketing business, because remember, that's what I got paid to do for companies. I was like, I'll just do it directly for people. But then when I got my first marketing client, I realized she didn't need help with marketing. She needed help with business strategy. Because remember, when you've done your business strategy wrong for 3 years, you've learned a lot about what not to do and what to do. So instead of becoming her marketing like media person, I became her coach. And it was somewhat of a natural transition, right? And so I wanted to host a conference to get me some coaching clients. And Michelle told me, you don't have an audience. So what did I do? I walk by faith and not by sight. And so I chose a date. I found a person who had been in this circle of people. Her name, I don't want to say the wrong name, but she was having an event in, I want to say October or November. This was a short timeline, okay? She had an event, and her event was all about planning your event. So I bought a ticket to that, and she said, choose a date. I chose January 27th. I had less than 3 months to pull off an event, a one-day conference, and I had no audience. I had no audience. Like, no, I had no email list. I didn't even have a Facebook page. Like, I had Jesus, and that's enough, right? So I got to work, because what I realized is that I needed an audience. And so I stopped operating from comfort, which is a big thing that I did in my nonprofit. I did the parts I liked. I did the parts that were fun. It was fun to create content. It was fun to write scripts about, just Christian, sitcoms and stuff like that. That was fun to me. Going out and meet new people, that did not sound pleasant. That sounded uncomfortable. Building relationships with people I did not know, that did not sound pleasant. But I was willing and I was open, because I was ready for a change. And I was committed to taking the limits off of my income and my impact. So I joined BNI. I joined some networking groups that were local to my city. And I started going out every week and talking to people and meeting people. And I would wait just long enough to where we actually kind of had some type of relationship. And I started asking people to buy a ticket. It was $47. The day of the event, I think we had 10 people who came. The way I had the room, and I'll pop a picture here for you to see. The way I had the room set up, it was perfect, because that was about what we could fit. The way you were stretched out, because it was like workshop style, which is what I still like to do to this day. I had 3 sponsors. I had a guest host, but I ended up hosting myself, because I think I just kind of knew what I wanted. But she did come, and it was great. It was great. It was great. That day, one person signed up for my program. So this is us. So this was not my first coaching client, but it was my first coaching client of 2017, and my first one in like my kind of official program, because that first program, it was overpacked. So anyway, this was the first person who signed up that day. This is how she signed up, you all, on a form. I had printed out a paper form, and I didn't have any of that. But I had printed out a form. What I knew is that I'm going to need your credit card information. So I had printed out, and it was like name, date, credit card, no, not HIPAA or not compliant with the security laws at all. I did it messy, as some people would call it, but I did it. And she signed up that day. Someone else signed up who was in attendance that day, or like a month later or 2 weeks later on Valentine's Day, because I had offered like a fast action bonus. If you signed up, you got like $500 off, right? So I resent it out to the people who had attended on Valentine's Day, like, treat yourself. And another person signed up. And then a month later, when I was doing calls and following up and just checking in with people who had attended, about how things were going, did they need support, one more person signed up, right? So my almost 3K, was it 2K? let's just say $2,500. My $2,500 program, I sold 3 of them within 3 months of that event, right? And then 2 people went on to upsell into, because now I've been doing this more. My first clients got epic, like they were getting incredible, results. One had become an Amazon bestseller. Everyone had their programs flushed out, their marketing. One who worked with me for a year, she made her first 6 figures in the program. So 2 people from that original 3 re-signed at the end of the 6 months to longer term programs. And by August of 2017, again, brand new coach, I made my first $15K month in sales, right? So they paid over a payment plan, but the one person had signed up for a 9K program and one signed up for a 6K program. So it was 15K in sales day as a new coach. No website, no email list, no funnel. I don't even know if I knew what a funnel was. Like at that time, I've learned so much, so much. So that is how I went. That is how I stopped struggling with the nonprofit and started earning $250 an hour as a new coach. I did not have a website. I did have faith. I had an open mind. I want to stress of just the things that, the shifts that I specifically had to make. I had to be willing to be uncomfortable. I wasn't uncomfortable too often in my nonprofit. Why should I be? I stayed in my comfort zone. Media, being creative, making things. But I had to be willing to be uncomfortable. I had to go into rooms and events and luncheons where I knew no one and tell myself, you cannot walk out until you talk to at least 2 people. And if you can't tell by me closing my eyes, I did not want to do that. I think people think I'm an extrovert because I'm warm and friendly. I'm just warm and friendly. Like Jesus won at life. Like, we have the victory in him. So why shouldn't I be warm and friendly to his people, to God's creation, right? But warm and friendly and an extrovert is 2 different things, right? And so one shift that I made is that I was willing to be uncomfortable. So I would ask you, where have you not been willing to get uncomfortable? Everything isn't going to feel great, convenient, good. But if it needs to be done, it's worth it. The benefits so outweigh the temporary discomfort that you're going to go through. 2, where are you limiting your income and thereby limiting your impact? For me, it was not selling in my nonprofit, right? 3, have you gotten high touch mentorship? Even though Michelle did not agree with the event that brought me my first clients, just having her support with learning how to formulate, like now big companies as well as my coaching clients pay me to help them craft offers because I have so much experience. I can turn any idea, hobby, skill, interest, experience, I can turn anything into something that you can sell that people want. But I should, because look at my journey, right? I went from getting it all wrong to spending time learning. I've invested so much money and time in learning how it all works, not just so I could do it, but part of why I became a coach is because I wanted to help other women like me avoid the mistakes. But I also wanted to make sure I knew what they should know. Right? So, do you have high touch mentorship? A $99 a month membership where you are one of hundreds of people and they don't know your name and you can maybe ask a question 1 time a month. That is not what you need in the early stages. You need someone whose eyes is on your business, who can call out the errors that will be obvious to them, but you can't tell are a blind spot, right? And then the last thing is, don't be afraid to walk in faith. There are a lot of things you can learn in free webinars and even YouTube videos where people will tell you the traditional way of doing business, where, well, first you need to get a lead. And if you get 300 leads, then, 1.7% of them will turn into a client. So you need 30 sales calls. And don't get me wrong, there is value in all of that. There is value in a funnel. There's value in a website. There's value in a launch. There's value in a webinar. But there is value in faith. There's value in taking action on something you're excited about, taking action on something that you believe in, taking action on something that God has put in your heart. Don't discount that value, right? I tell my clients, like, you and God are the CEO of your business. Like, I'm here to help you. I'll give you the options. I'll give you insight. But it is up to you. It is your business, right? Okay, so that is how I stopped struggling with my nonprofit and started making $250 as a new coach with no website, just faith. I want to tell you that if you enjoyed or learned anything from this lesson, I have a brand new book that I just published. I was trying to see if I had it nearby for you. And it is called, is that it? That is not it. It is called Greater is Calling. And I go into more detail and I walk you through the specific steps that I took, not just to host the event, but more so to start my business. Like, what did I do? And I take you through all of the steps. I break it down into 12 steps, including just building a name for myself fairly quickly, which I also did. And it is now on Amazon. And it's called Greater is Calling. So if you just type Greater is Calling, Angel Santos. So I would highly recommend that you grab it and dig in. And when you grab it, you get a code you can get the workshop that goes with it, plus a call with me for only $47. So between the book and the workshop and a call with me, you can plan out your whole business, right? And then by the time you get to the call, you come with your notes and we can flush it out so you can start your journey to having a profitable and purposeful mission-led business, right? That will once again take the limits off of your income and impact. Thank you so much for watching.